Welcome back to Real Estate Mindset. Today we're going to talk about how owning a home right now is actually breaking America. And you guys, we're going to talk about America's toxic obsession as well as far as home ownership. Obviously, I have Melody Wright with us today, and we're going to basically take a look at what some recent homeowners are saying as far as the regret that they're feeling by becoming recent homeowners. And so there's a huge lesson here with society, with how we view ourselves, how we're treating real estate investing as compared to like that's who we are now. If we don't own a home, we're bad people. Like is that really all? That's what life's about. And so again, you guys, I brought Melody here. I absolutely love her insights. Let me just plug you real quick. Melody, you guys go to her YouTube channel, Melody Wright. She does videos, breakdowns, a lot of breakdowns on the housing market. But personally, and I'm going to reference some of this stuff today, what I really love about Melody, I'm a little jealous. Her writing, you guys, her writing is absolutely Excalibur. Here's her Substack right here. I see you have over 6,000 subscribers. Dang, girl, that's awesome. Before we start looking at, some of the testimony from recent homeowners, anything you want to say? And how are you?
I'm doing well, Travis. Well, a little bit of breaking news that I shared today on X Twitter. As we've seen a massive increase, month over month increase in delinquency. For the longest time, we did a show together on hidden delinquency. I talked a lot about the fact that Fred only tracks commercial banks, which we know the non-banks do the majority of lending now. Black Knight has said they track the non-banks and the banks, but they have 80% of servicing. What we've come to understand is it's a lot lower than that. It's probably only about 30 to 35% of servicing, and they don't have the special servicers that handle a lot of the big, large delinquency. But in their data, and this is pulled from their institutional product, we just saw huge increases in 30 plus delinquency, really in all sectors except for 120 plus, which is the later stage. And the reason that is because there's so many modification programs, things like that. They're kind of scooping them all up at that 120th. And so, but to see an of over 18, almost 19% increase month over month of 30 plus delinquency tells me that the consumer is in serious trouble. And that goes with your theme of, regret and also because most of these folks have went out and purchased something they really could not afford.
Let me touch on something you just said. You even hit me in my own soul. I mean, you guys, about, I don't know, like 2 or 3 months ago, Melody and I were kind of thinking like Black Knight had 80% of the data. This is within 2 months. I don't even know where to lean anymore, Melody. Come to find out, when we compare this to HUD's survey showing roughly, I think, 84 to 85 million mortgages, come to find out there's actually over 4 million people that are in delinquency, and Black Knight only has roughly 30 to 35%
1.4
of the
million.
actual. Right.
Yeah.
And so, Melody, explain to the viewer, why is it so interesting, so powerful that we actually see that giant increase of delinquency month over month on Black. We already see it on HUD survey. Why is it so interesting that it's on Black Knight, even though they only have 1/3 of the true picture? Why is this so breaking?
Well, because they are kind of the industry. This is who people look at for that delinquency data. I mean, they kind of sell themselves as the industry, um, you know, uh, where you would want to come to get your information on the mortgage market, either from origination or servicing. And so they're a big actor in this space. And so for this to show up here, we had been hearing about it, private note delinquency, the census that you're referencing delinquency. We've been hearing anecdotal stories about people doing property inspections and appraisals. Because when you get to a 90th day of delinquency, a lot of things kick in. Like you have to do a property, if it's a government loan, which Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, if it's backed by one of those, you have to do an inspection every single month. And then you also have to do appraisals at that 90th day of delinquency. And we saw people talking about that on social media. But until now, Black Knight has showed very low delinquency, as has the Fred schedule that is the commercial bank, somewhere around 1.7%. So this is the first time the industry itself is going to have to admit what's actually happening
Hmm.
out there.
Yes. And also, what's interesting, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would know more about this than me, isn't Black Knight also choosing to pick top performing servicers? So they're not even looking at the delinquency data of where they should be looking at the delinquency data, which is like the bottom performing servicers. And for the viewers, the servicers are the people that you pay your mortgage to. They service your loan. They collect the money.
Yeah. So these are the people on their systems, right? And they are the biggest system in the industry. What they're missing are what I call the specialty servicers, those that focus on default. And so they don't report back to Black Knight. And so yes, to your point, they're out there saying they are the industry standard. You should go to them for their information. But in reality, they don't have a lot of the specialty servicers like FCI lender services. A couple of months ago, you could see on they're a big one that the private note space uses on Inside Mortgage Finance, which is another institutional product that a regular person cannot afford, was showing that FCI had a delinquency of 30%. And so if they're not capturing those special and really that's a really extreme example. Let's take someone like specialized loan servicing. They have kind of a combination of prime, but also they're known for being very good at specialty servicing or default servicing. They had around a 7% delinquency rate. And so, which Black Knight has been showing us around a 3%, a little bit higher than that. So it is much higher than they are really representing. And what I'm super fascinated about, Travis, is how they're going to manage this message. Because that is going to be very interesting.
Melody, is it fair to say that there's this doom loop of bad data, this foolishly optimistic data, and it's kind of just feeding the professionals, the financial advisors, the people that as citizens we rely on to keep us safe investing our money? Can we call this a doom loop of bad data?
It really is. I mean, it's just, and it's what really bothers me is just that they're trying to again represent that they should be who all of financial media goes to for these metrics, and the reality is they're not saying out loud what they're missing, and it's what they're missing is huge, which we can tell in the census. So I think all of these people in this space, all of these data providers have serious vested interest. And they're really they always show, for instance, their delinquency number excluding foreclosure.
Yeah.
It's just little things like that. And no one wanted to believe what was happening out there. But it's a doom loop, and it can make us feel crazy, and makes a lot of people call us crazy, right?
Hmm.
Because we are seeing, because you and I look at alternative sources of data, plus we also go out on the road and just look at what's actually happening out there. And so it's a doom loop, and it's one that's made me kind of nutty for the past few years. But one thing I want to say, Travis, real quick, is that the 30 plus delinquency, we call that the death cross in mortgage, because once you have made that decision to impair your credit, you don't do that in this country, as you well know. You do not want that deemed to your credit. So deciding to go 30 days delinquent is a huge decision. And it really does mean that there were no other choices.
Yeah, and let me add to what you just said, even more on a consumer basis. I mean, we're worried about adjustable costs of recent homeowners, like property taxes exploding, homeowners insurance exploding. But when you have a massive downgrade on your credit profile, like just one late payment, life gets a lot more expensive. Now, anything you charge, credit cards, car loans, anything, you're going to get the worst interest rate. You're going to take,
Right.
potentially, depending on your credit profile, depending where you're at, 100-point hit. Just one late payment. One late payment destroys your purchasing power. It's much more expensive to live. You get penalized no matter where you go. And that's, again, one of the premises of cash is king. When you have cash, you don't necessarily need your credit. So, Melody, you ready to jump in some of this remorse testimonial and kind of just, ask in kind of learn a lesson. What's the lesson here?
I'm ready.
Okay. All right. Let me throw this up on the screen real quick. So let's look at this first one. This one's pretty powerful. I'll read it for the viewers. I regretted not renting as soon as I bought my house. My God. So it doesn't sound like they even had the honeymoon phase. It's just straight divorce, straight to divorce stage, which is, we won't even go there. That's another horrible thing about society. I thought my ex and I, you already see where this is going. I thought my ex and I would be together forever. I wonder how old they were, Melody. I wonder how old. I had other plans to further my career, beautiful, by advancing my education, and thought we would step up. He stepped out. Sounds like a loser. Am I right? I don't know the situation. I'm just joking. I shouldn't have said that. And now I've been stuck in the same house by myself without being able to further my career. So now they're held back. They're held back because they're homeowners, because all of my money is spent covering the cost of homeownership. I was young and stupid, but hey, my dogs have, my dogs have a nice backyard. I guess what I wanted to say, Melody, I mean, can you just talk to the viewers about how just life happens and things change and things don't last forever?
Yeah,
I
and
mean,
I
what
think
did you?
the very interesting thing he said there is that, he had plans to get a better job. He was going to do
Mm-hmm.
additional education. I mean, we all believe this. When we're young, we believe that, the future is unlimited. Like we could do anything. But in reality, we have these things, the business cycles that happen. And, what he wasn't banking on probably was, a reduction in income, which happened probably through his divorce or separation. And so, these are the types of things, like life is a lot more complicated than our hopes and dreams may want us to believe. And so to me, he was seeing the rosiest picture of the future when in reality, they probably should have, but of course they were young and they wanted a new home and they probably, sound like they had just gotten married when they bought that home. And so he believed the future was bright, but life isn't like that. It's a mixed bag always, even when things are going well in the economy, because a storm could happen like what happened to you, Travis, and a tree could fall down and then that's a huge repair.
Mm-hmm.
You were living in a home that you were renting and suddenly found out it was infested with mold. That could happen to a homeowner, especially those who waive those property inspections. I mean, God only knows what they're facing right now because, homes they're a depreciating asset, and there's a lot of wear and tear.
And speaking about youth, and if I can share some of your Substack, you guys, Melody wrote a Substack, I think it's the 14th. I don't know what got into you that day, Melody, but I mean, gosh, I mean, it floored me. It floored me as a human being. So I wanted to reference that, and I wanted to talk about youth because I think it's a good segue. But basically, here's I don't want to. Here's what my mistake was at my youth. Okay, and what I see other people going through is we want to hear what we want to hear, and unfortunately, in our youth, we gravitate towards the people that are saying what we want to hear, and that's why you see it flourish in the media. And that brings me to this. I want to get Melody. I want to read this, just this brief paragraph from her Substack. I want to ask her what this means. Melody's Substack, basically, she's saying, we cannot get lost in how far we have to go. I honestly believe that we may not have as far to go as we think. And this is what, as youth, this is really what I'm saying. Okay. And really what I love about what Melody is putting down here. The first step is listening to those who disagree with us, the power in those words. And we must not only listen to what they say, but what they are trying to say. The premise is so important. And that's one of the values that we've lost during debates. What's the premise? It's about winners and I got to get them. No, dude, what did you gain as a viewer? What's the premise? What are they feeling? Now, Melody, could you please? What does that mean?
Okay. Yeah. So I wrote this Substack after the assassination attempt of our former president. I felt the moment was important for us to think, to really do some soul searching. And kind of one thing that I learned in my corporate career where I had to eat a lot of, you know what, is that you can't listen to what people are saying because I mean, the words themselves, because oftentimes they're awful. They're awful words. Like they're very harsh,
Hmm.
critical, combative,
Emotionally driven.
emotionally driven. And so instead you have to listen for what they're trying to say. So what are they trying to communicate? As simple as I need to go to the store can turn into a full-on attack of someone, depending on those words that they are used. They could be like, you forgot blah 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 da, 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 da. Okay, what are you trying to say? And so that's very important, when in communication, that you don't get lost, especially if you're on the receiving end of some hostility, and and then try to fight with every single word they're saying, trying, because like you said, the idea of trying to win, right?
Yeah.
Well, we all die, so there is no winning at life. There is only, what is the legacy that we leave behind, and really, how do we make life better for our children? And so if you stop trying to win every conversation, win every debate, you can really open yourself to understanding what the other person is saying and also what they're feeling. And, we like to think that we're these rational beings, logical, but in reality, a lot of what we do and say is driven by emotion. And, whether a lot of people don't believe that, but it's very true. And so you have to, and we're also seriously flawed, and sometimes wear that emotion on our sleeves and direct that or project that at other people. We all do this. And so it's important when you're having a tough conversation with someone to just step back, do active listening, but listen for what they're trying to communicate, not
Mhm.
maybe the hurtful words that are coming out of their mouth.
And can we do that if we're taking it personally, or is
Oh.
it right? I mean, so don't take it personally. Find the lesson and understand. Understand things are really difficult right now. On one hand, we're getting these massive headlines where everything is resilient, but when we go home, we know it's not resilient, and so we get frustrated. People get emotional for various reasons. Melody, take a look at this one here. Let me read this. This is a good one. Again, a recent homeowner is saying this after a horrible town-wide flood, our first year in our home. I find myself frequently sick to my stomach, stress, anxiety, sick to my stomach, thinking about how bad weather will get in the coming years. I mean, if that's our first year, right? And how we'll be throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars down the drain should we ever need to leave for good. So it sounds like they're upside down. Who's going to buy a $400,000 house in an area that floods twice a year?
Right. And these are the things that people don't take into consideration when they purchase a home, right? I was just talking about this with someone else. They're emotional. Is it close to a good school? Often is one of the things. Is it cute? So,
Yeah.
do my friends live close by? I mean, you're not thinking, okay, is it prone to flooding? Is it prone to extreme weather? Most of us don't really think that way, because we're thinking about the immediacy of right now. I want a home, and that's really, that thought takes over everything else.
I mean, in there are mega expensive risks at home ownership, and when you go in naive, see, Melody and I, guys, we've already been chewed up and spit out. You know what I mean? We've already been naive, and it
Mhm.
hurt. It hurt a lot.
Yes.
Um, but there are mega risks in home ownership, and think about Melody. Think about this person. Think about they just bought. They realize now that they probably can't even sell. Doesn't that create now a mindset and now a lifestyle that is actually counter to what they thought they were getting with a high society and an adult. It seems like now they're everything is taken personally. They have anxiety, possibly depression. It could push away marriages. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, it's an albatross. I mean, it's hanging around their neck, and it ruins marriages. I mean, it because the stress, financial stress is, I can just tell you from the way I grew up and being in a household where there was financial stress and we lost my our home to foreclosure. It was horrible because when you are in that mindset, like you say, you are lashing out at everyone around you, and because you feel like you're out of control, because you are out of control. And if you don't have faith or something like that to go back to, then that stress can just destroy families.
And it does destroy families. And if I can, let me go back into another paragraph, Melody, of your Substack, and it's appropriately titled. This her Substack, you guys, is titled "Forgiveness," and I just wanted to read, again, this paragraph here, because again, if you are trapped in that situation, living in anxiety, excuse me, depression, I think this might apply to you. Something is seriously amiss, and anger is just the signal. It's time we heed that signal if you can, right? Like that's just heeding that signal alone is making a difference. And because everyone feels that way, and become productive about it. Most people are not productive. The first step, people want to get from step 1 to step 10 without doing the hard work and pain. You can't do it. I mean, maybe you'll get lucky. Maybe you'll get lucky, but you can't forget step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Step 1, the first step, forgiveness. And no, not just forgiving others, but forgiveness for ourselves. Melody, can you please explain what you're trying? I love your Substack. Can you please explain what you're trying to tell people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we look around us. This is a trait from, time immemorial when we were hunter gatherers. We need, if we got left by the pack, we would die. We depended on others so much. Very different from our society today. And so we look around us to define who we are. We look at what other people have, and or don't have, and we kind of understand ourselves in relation to other people. And what happens is when we are trying to achieve something that's probably not even real in the first place, like pictures
Mm-hmm.
on Instagram that are staged, we're constantly feeling shame about the fact that we haven't achieved those things. And our society helps shame us, like you were talking about. I mean, oh, you're not a homeowner. I mean, I can't even tell you how many times I've heard that in my life. And it's just like, but it saved me actually during the GFC. I was not a homeowner and I, did very well back then. And so I think that we have to forgive ourselves for the things that we either don't have, never achieved, or have lost. We're all humans. We're all deeply flawed. And we should never be looking to our left or right to understand who we are. That's never going to be productive, and we must know that there are there's algorithms out there trying to make us do that, but we have to forgive where we are in life. And I think that's very hard. Like when you get married and think you're going to be with someone for the rest of your life, and then you get divorced, there's shame around that, right? And you just feel like a failure. And I think that we all feel like failures in one way or the other. And so we must forgive ourselves and also realize that society is really pushing us to have that shame. And we do have control. We can choose joy and choose not to kind of fall under those influences.
But let's talk about what it looks like when you don't do that, right? So, Melody, is this fair to say the unforgiveness now, the unforgiveness of our past failures is actually something that can hold us back from growing? Is that fair to say?
Absolutely, Travis. I mean, again, you're carrying a weight on your shoulders that is holding you down if you think of it that way. Life is a mixed bag. We are all going to die. We shouldn't be wasting time, just constantly criticizing ourselves, constantly feeling as if, we're not good enough, it's a huge weight and it will keep you back.
I love it. I don't love I love the gift of forgiveness, right? And it's an underutilized gift. And no one said it was easy. It was very hard. I had to forgive myself when I lost everything, and I had a lot of forgiving to do, Melody. And if I can do it, anyone can. And the way that I mean, honestly, guys, the way that I was able to do it is I had to do it through my obedience through my walk with God. So it's like,
Right.
okay, this is what God's saying I have to do, right? Pray, give it to Him when I'm stressed, and lift it up, and then okay, this is what I'm doing. Oh, I should be proud of
Gratitude.
myself, and yeah,
Right.
and I grew. So let me throw up another testimony here. This is an interesting one, Melody. This recent homeowner is saying, honestly, the first 2 years of owning had me asking what the hell I had gotten myself into. The previous owners did nothing and were very lazy. You can already see they're trying to blame. Anyways, the microwave outlet was installed incorrectly. So that busted, and the water heater gave out during a blizzard, talking about weather, and the coldest week of the year, of course. The siding was rotted, and the chimney hadn't been cleaned in probably 10 years. So we smoked out the street, and it was a mess. It was a 2 year, $15,000 mess for a lot of little things that just added up. And one right after the other. No breaks in between. All the breaking, smoking, chipping, clinging, and flooding. So, Melody, what? First of all, when I hear it, I'm already thinking, here's what you should be proud of: saving your money. You shouldn't be buying a house broke. If you're going to buy a house, have 6 months of emergency funds. And talking about unforgiveness, we're talking about where to get your confidence. Dude, if you're able to save money, you save 6 months, you got 6 months of emergency funds right now. Y'all should be proud of yourselves.
Mhm.
Maybe you don't have the Louis Vuitton. Are these people still buying Louis Vuitton? Do you know? Are they
I don't
bankrupt
know.
as well?
I think
Everyone's
we
going bankrupt.
yeah, we've heard that, some of the luxury brands are being severely impacted. We just heard about Swiss Army watches as well.
can you talk to the viewers about what you saw in that comment? Maybe spending money, budgeting.
Yeah. To your point, you need to have those reserves. Honestly, if you cannot afford to buy a home with, more than a 20% down payment with reserves in the bank, like you said, honestly, I would say even a year, then you can't afford a home. I mean, it's just that simple. And then also what you saw there is a lot of blame, right? Looking to the prior owners, did they get a property inspection? Maybe they were one of these people that waived one. Um, but 15,000 over 2 years, honestly, doesn't sound that bad compared to a lot of the stories that we hear, right, Travis?
I was like, where's this at? Right? Like you
Right,
went through flooding and all of those, and it was only
right,
15,000.
right.
Like, it's cheap,
And
very
and
cheap.
we know insurance has gone through the roof, and flood insurance is one of the most problematic. That's why we have a national program around it, but that's just it's going to get worse, and it's gotten worse in many areas, in this weather pattern that we're in right now.
I mean, Melody, but why though? I like to ask, why are they doing it? Why? What are they? What are they? What do you think that these recent homeowners with this regret? What are they looking at instead of things like you and I know to look for? But we've learned our lesson the hard way. What are these people thinking?
Think a lot of it's status. I mean, I think a lot of it is, again, I want that status of home ownership. I'm X years old. I'm supposed to have a home. And so it's not really based on what those people need. It's just based on what they think that they're supposed to be doing.
which kind of segues me into this again, a quote here, from your Substack. This is you saying, Melody, we get lost in these versions of ourselves because we fail to see humanity's purpose. Humans are incredibly inventive. We will find our way out of this crisis if we focused on coming together instead of tearing things apart. Incredibly powerful sentences there. Melody, can you please explain to the viewers what you mean there?
Well, I was a big anti-social media for the longest time because of this. People I knew were posting things online that I knew weren't true. Like that wasn't their real life. That wasn't, but we can do that. We can post pictures taken a split second in time that makes it look like we have this happy, wonderful life. In reality, a lot of times that's a facade. And so I think what we do in social media is we create these different versions of ourselves, and we're always, wanting to be that intact family, happy, smiling family. Well, maybe we just had a huge fight over the mortgage or whatever, and when everybody is just looking at those versions, we constantly feel inadequate, that we're not enough because we aren't that happy, smiling family every single day, or we're not that avid exerciser, or that homeowner, or who, these words that we use to describe ourselves. That's not who we are as humans. As things are not, should themselves not be a goal, and attaining things is so much the focus. A lot of that's because our economy is driven by consumption.
And you said earlier, it's life should be about a legacy. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by life should be about legacy? Does that mean know me because I've made $5 million? Should you know me for the hustle? What do you mean legacy?
How we can make other people's lives better, and our family, our friend. I mean, honestly, what I do every day is wake up and just pray that I can bring joy to others, and honest and help people. And each of us, often we look at somebody else and say, well, I wish I could do that, or why don't I, why can't I give somebody $1 million to help them out of a tough situation? Well, I don't have $1 million, but what can I do? I have, my brains. I have this ability sometimes to write. I have this experience, and so constantly looking for ways that we can help others, do unto others as you would have done to you. I mean, it is the golden rule, and every religion has a very similar saying, one way or the other, because we all share this planet. Life shouldn't be about everything we can take from it. It should really be about how we can enrich, this planet, enrich others, enrich and when I say enrich, I just mean through, essentially caring, nurturing, growing, sharing, these types of things versus taking.
Empathy, compassion, and sympathy. And I'm going to tell you something, Melody, all right? Don't tell anyone this. I got so much baggage from my past. Sometimes all I can do is help people. I mean, I feel like, my God, like all the stuff that I went through in my youth when it pertains to how I was living my life, my expectations, how I saw myself, just purchasing. It's like the same thing is happening now, only it's worse, and they're attacking the people that are cautious even more so. It's crazy. But anyways, I got one more for you, one more buyer's remorse testimony here. Okay, I wanted to read this. So this is what this recent homeowner is saying. So far, not too many great things here. I never wanted to buy a house. First of all, the power, Melody. We could stop right there. We can stop right there. Just that one statement. But let's see what else is going on here. My in-laws. I'm sorry. My in-laws are great, by the way. And it wasn't always like that. I wasn't always married, I didn't always have these same in-laws. The in-laws pushed the issue, and my wife insisted it's a two-person decision, guys. This year, she finally realized why I wanted to continue renting. Wake up, honey. Or is it whose fault is this? The plumbing on the side of the house busted and cost us $5,000 to fix. I had to take my little one to the emergency room. $3,500 ER bill. 3 weeks later, a pipe under the house busted. Insurance, listen, just because your home is insured does not mean your insurance is going to fix it. Insurance refused to cover it, and it costs. Sit down, think about it, young family. They're already split. The in-laws are already involved and not making him happy from the sound of it. $20,000 fix. Yuck. 2 months later, in the middle of Houston, staying home melody. 2 months later, in the middle of Houston, with above 100-degree temperature, the AC went out. We spent $5,000 to replace it. First of all, I don't know what kind of AC they're getting. Must be real nice, because it shouldn't cost that much. But okay, I calculated how much we have spent on this darn house, and financially, we would have been better off renting. Straight up, and guys, he's not just talking financially; he's talking emotionally as well. What can we learn from that testimony?
Yeah, again with the blame, right? Like it's just so funny. Take responsibility, be accountable for your decisions. Like eh, you made the choice together. Whether one spouse was pushing for it or not, the choice was both. And so be
Yeah.
accountable. There's so little humility these days. Like it's just so crazy, and so little humanity. But yes, don't let other people opinions drive you to make a decision. You are stronger than that, just lay your case out. And if not, then there's other problems that are.
Well,
Go ahead.
I'll go deeper into what you said. It's not that other people's opinions shouldn't affect our decisions, right? Because we're sharing ours. It's that most people allow other people to do their decision making
That's
for
yes.
them.
Right.
With those friends and in-laws not fully understanding, hey, we don't like you. The husband doesn't like you, by the way. Like they're not thinking about that, right? They're not taking that type of sympathy, empathy, and compassion into consideration, right? So by all means, I say, well, also you have to be careful whose opinion you're listening to, because obviously that will affect you in some way, good or bad. But the main thing is just like, I mean, Melody, as a society and as a culture, have we allowed other people and influencers, social media, have we allowed that to do the thinking and decision making for us to a large degree?
I think so. I mean, I think that we are opening ourselves up to that by trying to define who we are in this, in context to others. And so, you know, we are being unduly influenced by things that don't matter. And that's where, yeah, you just can't. You need to listen. You listen to what everybody is saying. You've got to do that active listening. Listen to your in-laws and what they're saying, but then you have to think for yourself and say, okay, is this truly what's best for me and my family? Is this the best decision? And then you have to go out there and do some research to figure it out. Unfortunately, we just take far too many shortcuts, and it's so much easier to blame others. There's a lot of learned helplessness in this country where people feel they don't have agency and they're so used to blaming everyone else. But the fact is, we have a lot of agency. There's a lot that we can do. It's just that we oftentimes don't want to do it because it's inconvenient.
I mean, we can say he wants to say he signed in duress.
Right.
But the thing is what Melody's trying to say is it's a duress he created.
Right.
If both people aren't on the same page, I mean, and you're married, honey, I don't want to do it. Sorry, here's why. The one thing I'm not, unless my in-laws, Melody, are paying my mortgage and
Right.
down payment, they don't get to decide what I do.
Exactly.
And that way, I don't have to blame them. Back to Substack. One last thing on Substack. I love the Substack. It was just a really good one. I just want to read this last thing here. And again, I'm not reading the whole thing, okay? Simply, we must do better. Gone are the days where we hope and pray our politicians do better. And I don't want to get political. We have to make a stand in the ways that we can, and are able to, based on our particular circumstances that hit home. When I read that, can you explain to the viewers what that means?
Yeah, I talk about this on other podcasts. I can't remember what I was listening to, but I was, this was during COVID, and someone said, if you want to help a billion people, just do the thing that you can do. And we each, that's something each different for all of us. For me at that time, I had a good car, and I had just created my own company. I wasn't working for anyone anymore. I could get in my car and drive to Nashville and Austin and Orlando and all these places. That was something I could do. I couldn't do that right now. But back then I could do that. I could take almost 2 weeks to do that. And so, whatever it is, I know right now we're seeing, people with multiple jobs. They don't have time to do anything, to sleep, etc. So, do what you can do. And I know it sounds really hard, but just whatever that might be, if that is just being kind, if that's just, asking your really annoying coworker how their day was, or what they did over the weekend, and they're going to talk about um, you know, some game that you don't care anything about or something like that, still do it because we need to create community. We have to create community. We are all so isolated now in these, in these dark corners of social media, and we are not getting the community that we need. We're humans. We are meant to be together. And there's so much of this just do you,
Mm-hmm.
that's if you just do you, you will just be doing you by yourself at the end of your life. I promise you that. You will be a very lonely person. And so, whatever it is you can do to make someone else's life a little bit better, do that. If it isn't driving around to new build communities, or it's not writing a Substack, or it's not doing a YouTube, do what you can to make somebody's life a little bit better. And I guarantee you, you're going to make your life better as well.
So you would agree then that our time, our time is our most valuable asset? Would you agree with
Absolutely.
that?
Yes.
Hmm.
And we don't
And
have a lot of it.
can money buy time?
I don't think so. I think that's what I learned like after the GFC is more when I came under financial stress is because I was working such crazy hours. I was paying somebody to clean my house. I was paying somebody to go grocery shopping for me. I was paying somebody, to do errands. Money can't buy. I was still, it didn't buy any more time because then I was dealing with those people that I was paying to do those things. And so I don't think that money can buy time, honestly. I think that is, that is a myth.
Now, when I was dead broke, eventually, eventually, that was part of my worst time of life, and it was part of my best time of my life was when I was dead broke. And part of the reason why, uh, um, you know, I was so, and this was even before I met Shara. I got happy, even though I was dead broke, because I finally understood how valuable my time was. And like I said, I was following my obedience. So the Bible says, "Help widows and orphans." And so through church, I would constantly, we met some widows in the community, and we would work on their houses and do grunt work. And honestly, that kept me out of myself and my insecurities, and my this whole. And not only did it kept me out of myself, but it also allowed me to see myself differently. And that's really, Melody. That's really what I needed. I needed to see, like, hey, this isn't the guy that lost everything. This isn't the guy that got beat down by life and gave up. This is a new person. And I walked that path out. And I really respect what you have to say. We're at about 45 minutes, Melody. Great podcast today. A lot of good stuff in there. Hopefully, our viewers love it. What do you want? Anything you want to say to end on?
Well, I just because you mentioned Cheryl, I want to mention something that happened to us on the road. We're out there on the road for dinner. We're looking, and one night I really wanted a nice dinner. That didn't happen, right?
Oh,
We
no,
won't
that
talk
did not
about that.
happen. I
But
felt
I
that.
just yeah, it was crazy, put it that way. But, but the best dinner we had on the whole trip was when we got back to your home and Shara made us the most amazing lasagna that I can't
Oh,
stop
yeah.
talking about, as you know. But and we were just sitting around with your kids and we were just sitting in a living room together. And I'm like, this
Well,
is life. I know
well,
that they were more
let
excited about me,
yeah,
but
let's
yeah,
not leave that.
okay.
Yes, keep going.
This is what life is. It's this community. It's not going to some expensive dinner and, it's probably in a not even that great environment. Sure, those things are nice, but in reality, that experience with your family, that family meal was the best thing about that entire trip. And why was it? Because I could see your just the love in that home was so great. And that is what life is about.
First of all, thank you. That means a lot. That you just said all that right there. That means a lot. But is it fair to say this? You fell for it. You fell for this. I have to have a nice dinner. I've worked hard.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Did you not? You fell for the trap.
I
And I
did.
didn't even realize it. And I did too. And I didn't even realize it until just now. We both did. And it
Right.
took us going back home, right? And
That's
share with
right.
family. First, isn't that crazy? I mean, it's just so, isn't it easy to drift away from our values?
Absolutely. And that's why I think gratitude is so important. Like, if you get everything wrong and you get gratitude right, you're going to be doing so much better because I was just so unbelievably thankful for the kindness that was shown to me after a really brutal trip. As you know, we were on it together. And it
Yeah.
just that gratitude, just, praying at the dinner table, it changes everything. And so in whatever situation you're in, whatever it is, if you can just be thankful for one thing, it really turns your entire mood, everything around. So that of anything, gratitude is, in my opinion, the most important thing you could change today is just say try every hour at least to say you're thankful for something. And I promise you, even if it's a crappy situation, and this has happened to me, one of the worst situations of my life, and I'll say, I'm thankful this happened. Suddenly I could think of one reason why why this was important that it happened. And so, it's all of these things they're skills you can develop and hone. It's not natural at first, but then it becomes natural.
I'm grateful, that you have that mindset, Melody, and I am thankful for your time. And you guys don't forget, if you liked hearing from Melody, support her, go to her Substack, look at her readings. Information will be linked in my description. And Melody, always a pleasure. You guys, if you're out there investing in real estate, you guys already know we wish you luck and we hope you win.